Even what?
No, no, it's all good. I was going to tell you one thing real quick.
Yeah. Hmm.
Zoom is not going to be affected by whatever. I know that. It's not about Zoom. It's about whether we're going to use catalog or not.
Oh, great. Okay, cool.
Just want to let you know that. So you're not, I
Thank
meant to say
you.
that and I forgot to say something
I
yesterday.
I I appreciate that. So I'm not thinking all weekend
No,
about how the hell we're going to do summer camp without Zoom. 'Cause
no, we'll still use Zoom. It's just whether we're going to use catalog or maybe something else. I don't know. That's what she wants to talk about.
so see, I'm going to pause this bit because I almost did. Chat checked. Captions should just be captioning. Let me just check that they're captions. Yep, closed captioning on. Check, 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 check. Groovy. Got my script.
Did you do the walk around on the plane to make sure all the wings were there and everything?
Make sure all the wings were there. Oh, look, we got a wing falling off. Um, I will say one of the most, I'm not too scared of flying, but last year I got to go up in the big B-29 bomber that we have down here named Doc.
Oh, wow.
He's restored from original and has a crew of people who fly and attend to him in a big old hangar. And it was a prize that we won for one of the fundraisers that WSU Tech did. And like I understand that it's safe and they go to air shows and they have, retrofitted it, but still the amount of safety checks and like sitting there watching them check and recheck and recheck. And it's like this should make me feel more comforted, but it's actually making me feel a little nervous. And then you get in and you can hear them on the radio because you can put on like the headsets that to where you can hear all of the comm from the all the different stations and like the checks internally, like they recheck and check and recheck all the way down from the front to the back of the plane to like four different people. It was
Hmm.
really cool to see and hear that. I need to check my email. I hope Shelby and Rachel aren't trying to get in. Not you got the panelist link, right, Robert? Obviously you're
Yes.
here. Okay.
Yeah.
I turned my
Yeah,
email
so did I.
and they were on there. Let me see. I don't have
As
any email.
we have three attendees in the waiting room, but that could be people just waiting to get in here in 6 minutes.
Yeah, we'll just keep waiting. I'll probably actually start it here in about 2 minutes so people can get in and we can I'll just turn off our videos and I'll put up the thumbnail if that works. There's Shelby. Hi, Shelby.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I had people in my office.
Oh,
Shh. It's a bad thing. Not
I
really.
like I like your
I
passive.
was trying to get on. It's like I don't mean to be rude, but I gotta get on. I've got a presentation here in a few minutes I'm part of.
Shoo.
Yeah, yeah, leave me alone.
Hi,
Hi,
Rachel.
I'm sorry that I was not here sooner.
You're fine.
I apologize.
You're fine. I can hear everybody. I can see everybody.
I need
Um,
to figure out how to reposition. There we go. Reposition this.
I can see the shadow of the tree outside your window. It's blowing very nicely.
I just had to close those blinds because otherwise you get to see all the sunlight coming
Uh,
in as well here in South Florida where it's 82 degrees.
we're almost gonna get up. We're gonna be at 78 today.
All right.
I know it. It's already warm enough that when I went out to get chicken nuggets from the RSC, I had to take my blazer off. Dying. Okay, we'll give it
Probably
just a
blur my
second for Casey
background
to get
here,
back.
right?
Mhm.
Maybe that's a little bit less distracting.
You had chicken nuggets and I had chicken strips.
Ooh. I'm not a huge chicken nugget or strip person, but I just needed uh I'm gonna spotlight everybody beforehand, so I'm not doing this out in the real world. I just needed some protein, and it's right across from my building. I got them, and the smallest they had was 8, and I'm like, I don't want or need 8 chicken nuggets. So I came back and gave 4 of them to our student workers. I was like, please take these nuggets off my hands. Okay, everybody feeling good? Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the webinar. Go ahead, if you don't mind turning your videos off for a bit. I'll turn mine off, and I'm going to put up the thumbnail, so that's there. And then we'll get properly started, and you can turn your videos back on once I start doing the opening spiel. Sound good?
Yep.
Awesome. Let me get my thumbnail up. Out. Share screen. Share. Okay. Why is it not showing?
I'm able to see it, Crystal.
Yeah, no, it is, but now I've lost the start webinar.
I can click on it if you want. It's
Would
showing
you
it for me.
please?
Yeah,
The button has just vanished.
there it started.
Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Feel free to make yourselves home in the chat. We'll cover a little bit of housekeeping at the beginning, but for right now, we're just going to let everybody get in before we take off. Hello, everyone. It is noon, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. We've got a little bit of housekeeping to do as some more people join, and before we jump on into today's panel, which I'm very, very excited about. Also, panelists, if you want to chat to everyone, make sure you toggle that switch on to everyone. Participants, you should have the ability to chat with everyone as well. If for some reason you don't, ping myself or Casey Eubank, and we will look into it, but I'm pretty sure you should. So, looks like we've still got people coming in. Welcome, welcome. Let me just, okay. Warm Arkansas, nice. Atlantic City. You guys hanging in out there? Some wild weather on the East Coast. Well, everybody, hi and welcome. While you're coming in and introducing yourselves in the chat, we're going to be talking about Mission Accessibility Possible with voices from the Accessibility Summer Camp Planning team. And today I am joined by 4 panelists who have been dedicated members of the Accessibility Summer Camp Planning team for years, and some of them since its very beginning. Before we get started, a few bits of housekeeping. As this is a webinar, we encourage you to chat and share resources in chat, but make sure you're putting your questions in the Q&A. I'm without a co-moderator today, so using that Q&A for your questions will ensure I see them and get them to our panelists. And I'll be doing my best to monitor chat and compile any links or resources. Sometimes people like to share stuff, and that's awesome. Anything we do compile will be shared on the website with the recording afterward. So auto captions are enabled, and we are recording, and that recording will be up sometime next week on the ASC website and on the YouTube channel, and we'll make sure to put links to those in at the end of the webinar, but you can always find links to all of our socials on the main web page. Before we dive in, I also want to thank our very first sponsor for the conference, Anthology. They're a gold sponsor, and we're very excited that they have committed. All of that sponsorship money is what helps us cart, caption, and get sign language interpreters for the main conference. So yeah, let's just dive in. Panelists, please reveal yourselves. So first, what I'd like to do is I'd like for each of our panelists to introduce themselves, say who they are, where they're from, what they do, and how long they've been with the conference. Rachel, would you start us off?
I'm happy to do that. So hello, everyone. I am Rachel Ruprecht, and I'm currently a senior instructional designer at Broward College, which is in Fort Lauderdale in South Florida. And I had to think earlier today, I was trying to remember how long have I been doing this? I think that I attended Accessibility Summer Camp first in 2021, and then started helping with the planning committee in the fall of that year. So since 2021 is what I'm going with.
And Shelby Huddleston.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Shelby Huddleston. I'm the Director of Distance Learning at Cali College. I get to wear lots of different hats, but I have a blast doing it. And I was just thinking back, I was part of Accessibility Summer Camp the very first year.
That's right. Oh, man.
And when it was still just a PD day at WSU Tech.
Yeah, that's wild. Robert Beach.
Hello, I'm Robert Beach, Assistive Technology Specialist at Kansas City, Kansas Community College. And I've been here since January of '94, so I'm an old dog now. And I have been involved with the ASC since its very beginning. When Cliff Nelson sent out an invite asking people who were interested to be involved, I jumped on it, and I've been with it ever since.
Awesome. And Casey Eubank.
Hi, everyone. I'm Casey Eubank. I'm the Learning Technologies Manager at WSU Tech, and I've been at WSU Tech almost 18 years. And as far as the conference, I've also been involved with the conference since the very first year as well, helping plan and organize it all the way back then.
And my name is Crystal Eiseminger. I am the director of the Accessibility Summer Camp Planning Committee, but that's not how I started out either. I attended the very first year on the same day that I got the call from Dr. Utash at WSU Tech for the position I'd applied for, working alongside Casey and the group that was kind of in charge of ASC. And so I naturally grew into that role. And when Cliff left the college, I took it over. And that's been about 4 years, too many years to remember. But we're in our 9th year. And for those of you who may not know, this conference, which is now a one-day virtual conference, June 12th, save the date. We'll talk more about that later. It is a one-day virtual conference, but it originally started as just a bunch of people in an auditorium doing some professional development around accessibility. So it's come leaps and bounds, and that's kind of as we're working our way close to the 10-year mark, where we wanted to do a session like this, just to kind of explore what it's meant what it's like, share a little bit of what we've learned about these types of events in case, anyone out there wants to like start their own accessibility conference. The more the merrier. So with that, I want to kind of jump into some questions, and I'm not gonna make anyone go in a particular order. I just feel like that's not very organic. So just pipe up. And the first question I want our panelists to answer is: over your years on the committee, what changes or milestones stand out to you as the biggest contributors to the camp's success?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Shelby.
Okay, I said one of the biggest growths happened, with COVID. We went to a virtual format, and we grew exponentially, really fast, from being a smaller conference based out of Wichita, Kansas, and all of a sudden we had people from Washington. We had international people attending our conference, and that was probably one of the biggest growths that we've seen over the years was going virtual.
Yeah, and this is Robert. I would agree with that. But there's really two different growths that I have seen. Of course, one very obvious one is the numbers. And like Shelby said, going to the virtual format really blasted that out. But I do remember our very, very first year when we were in person down in Wichita, we had somebody attend from San Diego, California, drove all the way from San Diego, California to attend that one-day conference that we were doing there in person. So even from its inception, it's been a wider spread than we realized. But the other growth I've seen is we've really gone, that first couple of years was more focused on kind of document digital accessibility. How do you make your accessible Word, PowerPoint kind of documents, and focused on higher ed. And the growth has happened where now we're not just higher ed, we're not just K-12, we're business and industry as well attending. And our focus has gone far beyond just how do you create an accessible document so people can read it. So that's kind of the growth I've seen, and I'm glad to see as well.
And sorry, Rachel, go ahead. Okay, I was just say, as part of the marketing and registration committee, we do the social media for the conference. And in addition to what everybody else has said, I agree the pandemic spurred a lot of growth for us. But also, we just recently, like the last couple of years, had a lot of growth on social media, but specifically LinkedIn. Had a lot of interaction, a lot of sharing. Shelby's shaking his head yes, because he helps share a lot of stuff out on LinkedIn, I know. But yeah, we've had a lot of growth in our social media and our MailChimp. A lot of you read our emails that go out, and we appreciate that too. And we've seen a lot of growth in just interaction with those emails that go out. So just from the marketing and registration perspective, we've seen growth in those areas too.
And to that, I would just add, as someone who joined the conference a little bit later and wasn't there from the inception, I got to be a part of it in virtue of it going virtual, since I'm not located in Kansas. And having, I remember a year or two after, there was a conversation among the planning committee about whether the conference should be adjusted back to some sort of a hybrid format, or if we were going to adjust things so that there could be maybe 2 days involved or something. And the decision was made to retain it being a virtual one-day conference. And I think that has really helped continue its growth, so that it's rooted definitely in Wichita, but has a global audience.
I just popped a question in to chat. Feel free to answer if you are comfortable, but it'd be interesting to know how you all know about us. If you've been to the conference before, if this is something you just ran into, where you ran into it. Because as Casey said, we have expanded the way that we reach people, and it's always fascinating to know how. Andrew says from a local campus meeting. Cool. So let's move on to the next kind of question. What keeps you, by the way, I'd like everyone to know that While Casey does indeed work for WSU Tech and I indeed work for WSU, this is not our primary job, and we have to squish it in between all the other things that we do. But Shelby, Robert, and Rachel, and most of the rest of our planning committee members are complete volunteers from completely different institutions. So this is really something that they commit to doing on their own time. And so that's why I wanted to ask, what keeps you all motivated to stay involved with this, especially year after year after year? And like, what does the camp personally mean to you?
Me personally, I stay involved because I think it is a very important topic. And I think the more it is talked about, the more it is shared, the more people who hear about accessibility and equal access, the better the message is going to get out, and the more inclusive we are going to become in all of our different environments, whether it be post-secondary ed, K-12 ed, industry, the workplace, what have you. Accessibility will only get better as more people get involved. So I think it's a very important topic. And me personally, as a person with a disability, I again, it kind of ties into the same thing. The more the merrier, the more we know, the more who know, the more that know, the better the knowledge is going to become. And I've seen that happen over the last few years. People are getting better and better about, documenting digital accessibility, what it really means. That has, in my opinion, that has improved over the last 5 to 6 years.
I would say, I think for me, just like a lot of you that attend, I just learn a lot every time we have the conference every year, and I look forward to learning more every year. So, and helping others to learn. So that's what keeps me motivated. Is just I learn and I'm able to put into practice, and we're able to help others to be able to do the same thing, to ultimately help those that need those services, the content remediated or made digitally accessible. So I just feel like we're helping everyone to be able to make life better.
I feel like I should just say what they said largely. Like we recognize this is important, we care about it, we think it's worth doing. And I think I'll add to that too. I just feel like there's been growing momentum for the importance of accessibility over the past 5 or more years. And especially with changes in how legislation and regulations are applied, there's just increased attention in a way that I think helps explain the significance and the growth of the conference too, and that there's interest, there's an appetite, and it's really great to be involved in helping address that.
And one more, yeah, and I'm going to echo what everybody else has said too. I mean, it's great for me to get into the sessions and learn myself, because I want to improve what I do. But it's created community. There's a lot of the same people are there year after year, and you start recognizing some of those names, and they become colleagues. You can reach out if you got a question. How are they doing something over in their institution? So community is one of the biggest things. But the other part is there's a lot of people that attend this conference that wouldn't normally have the opportunity to go to a face-to-face conference, because either a lot of those face-to-face conferences are during the academic year when people don't have a chance to get away to learn. So the summer's been a great way to try and, snag some of those people, give them an opportunity they wouldn't normally have for a really robust program.
And I also forgot to say, I'm the director of ADA and 504 compliance at WSU, Wichita State University, but I worked at WSU Tech up until October of last year. So I think one of the most exciting things for me, especially this year, but every year is the new people. So we're partnering with WSU this year, and so that means that their staff and faculty and students are going to hear about it. And then when you find out that somebody who went last year told a whole group of people, and next year you see an entire college register as a group, and it's like, whoa! Those are the moments that I get really excited, because like Shelby said, those voices that get added to the conversation every year just make everybody's knowledge richer. Yeah. And then I echo everything else you guys said too. In what ways do you feel the camp helps cultivate a stronger accessibility community, like locally, regionally, or beyond? Like, if there are any specific things or moments that you can like harken back to.
I'll say I've been at two different colleges, institutions since I started in this role, and it has been a great sort of focal point for me to, in the support staff roles that I've been in, working a lot with faculty and other staff in those similar capacities, to say, there's sort of this sense of accessibility is something that matters and we should be doing something about it, but maybe you don't have any familiarity with it and aren't really sure how to do that. It's been a great way for me to say, well, here's this thing that you can go learn a lot from that will sort of give you a starting point that can help at both of the institutions that I've been involved in.
I would just say awareness, right? It just makes, and that could be locally, regionally, and nationally, or internationally, just awareness of what accessibility means and what it means to make things accessible either digitally or physically. And what, for different groups, whether it be educators or administrators, or like Robert said, people in industry or the workforce, what it means for those different areas and how to just be aware of that and make changes and policy and things like that to make things better for their community. So just awareness, I think, is the biggest thing the conference does, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that. The awareness is great. And Roberts hosted a session for several years with the student panel. And that's really impactful for me, because, the students, they're really open. They tell us, what are their experiences. I don't know. I don't understand, what they go through just, until they start explaining the process and learning what it is, because I don't have the same barriers that they have. And so learning about what those barriers are and how we can improve that and improve our policies at our own institutions, I think that's really helped with bringing bring community to the local level.
And I think I would also add that just the fact that the camp has become so broad, it's not just here in little old Kansas, seeing that this is a topic that's not just important, we're not just raising this up here. It's not just our institutions saying, this is important, we need to work on this, but we're hearing, institutions in other parts of the country and other parts of the world, we're all working with this because we all want to make a more inclusive environment. And you don't feel like you're the only one struggling. If you feel like, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. How are we going to make this happen? You're not alone. There are people out there that are in the same boat with you and they're willing to help row with you. So like that sense of community and also that sense of awareness is both sides of the coin, I believe.
So I think this kind of segues nicely into one of my other questions, because you were just talking about that global piece, which is one of the things I think people find surprising. But what is something people might be surprised to learn about the planning process or the collaborative work that happens behind the scenes of creating a virtual accessibility conference?
I'm going to chime in again. Just the time involved, right? I mean, we probably start playing out at least probably like 8 or 9 months out before the conference starts. So, the conference ends in June, and it's probably usually maybe October, November by the time we start back up into the whole planning process. And we meet monthly. And then there's also different subcommittees like the marketing registration, the program committee, all other committees that meet during that month as well, and they're working on getting things started up again and getting the conference. So just the amount of planning that takes to put on the conference, and then there's a lot of time hours spent, especially that week the week of the conference, that Monday through Thursday, and of course Friday, the day of. But a lot of preparation, a lot of things, just getting things ready to go for the day of. So I just don't think that probably people realize there's that amount of time and hours spent.
I would agree with that 100%. The technology, keeping our website current, because we want people to have current information. We don't want people coming and saying, oh, they're not having any, new programs. They only have a few up there, and then 2 days before the conference, everything gets posted. Our team does a great job keeping all the information up to date, and that takes time, takes effort. And I think also just the brain power behind it all, having to review all of the proposals that come in and analyze, is this really what we're looking for at this conference? Does this fit? Yeah, it's a great proposal, it's a wonderful topic, but does it really fit? And all that analysis that has to go into that and figuring out, okay, where does it fit? How are we going to fit it in? All of that behind the scenes work is time consuming and, quite honestly, at times brain consuming.
Brain consuming. Yes, 100%. Rachel?
I was just going to say, one thing I've noticed, I think that's a contrast to perhaps some other conferences or events that I've been involved in, is how personal our engagement with it is. We're a small conference that doesn't have a big budget for a lot of technology that can automate some of the things that others do in ways that can streamline those processes. So this is heart and soul and time and sweat and blood and tears and all of that in which we're managing and coordinating happily to do so. But it's a very all hands on deck, all people involved, everyone's doing something interpersonally, communicatively, and organizationally style thing.
Well, just to echo off everybody else, it doesn't happen overnight. And like Robert was talking about, the programs, going through all those, it's really amazing all the proposals that we get and trying to find the right fit for the year too. There's new trends happening every time. And so we're trying to make sure it's relevant each year. And it's not just, last year's program all over again. It's a different program every single year.
I agree with that.
I just wanted to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Crystal.
Go ahead, Casey. No, you.
Oh, I just wanted to add something I forgot that also might surprise people is that with the marketing that we do, WSU Tech has a digital marketing program, and we collaborate with them, and we have students that, as part of their capstone class, help us with social media and our strategy and our plans. And so there's not only do we have everything that we're educating the public, but we also have some applied learning experiences for WSU Tech students in addition to everything else we do. So I thought some people might be interested in hearing that. So sorry, I forgot to. Sorry if I spoke over you, Crystal.
You're fine. You're fine. I honestly can't remember now what I was going to say. It was something to do with what Shelby said, which probably was just like, yeah, what he said. But if I think about it, I'll chime in a little bit later. Okay, so I know what it was. I think one of the other things people don't realize is like the amount of moving parts, especially on the day of. I was just trying to explain to some colleagues today, like 3 monitors open, Teams open, Google open, multiple documents because we have captioners that need to know where they're going and have links. We have sign language interpreters who need to know where they're going and have links. We ask for volunteers, for moderators, and then we train them. So all the moderator training, and then you've got this whole army of moderators who might have issues and be needing let into Zoom. And it is wild. It is delightful. I look forward to it, as well as have anxiety about it every year. I mean, you wouldn't be running a conference if you didn't have those feelings. But I think it's fun to know about those kinds of things, that little peek behind the curtain. So when you're attending summer camp this year, you'll be like, oh, I know all the stuff that's going on. But with that kind of in mind, the craziness that happens, and all the good moments that happen, can you each share a moment, maybe a participant interaction or a piece of feedback that made you feel like this was all worthwhile and the camp was really making a difference?
I think some of the comments you see in the chat, during the presentations, during the keynotes, the student panel comments are great too. And like I was saying just earlier, that's what makes it for me is listening to the students talk about what some of the struggles they are, that they have in classes or how they overcome them. Because like I said, that's what it's all about, is trying to break down those barriers.
I think mine would be, several years ago, I did a session where I just demonstrated having to use a screen reader and navigate websites, and how an inaccessible website can be so much of a barrier, but simply doing a few things to make that website accessible opens up a whole new door. And afterwards, I received some feedback from people. It's like, I had no idea it was really that big a difference. That session really opened their eyes as to what people with disabilities do face when digital information or anything is not accessible. So I think that moment kind of clicked with me. It's like, I didn't really think this would be that big of a deal. People wouldn't really be that interested, but evidently they were.
I forgot to mention at the outset that my role on the committee is that of the communications coordinator. So I handle the email correspondence. And the thing that sticks out to me in response to this question is last summer, there were some people who reached out a month or 2 or 3 even after the conference because they had had extenuating familial circumstances and other situations that prevented them from attending it live, but they were committed to trying to figure out how they could get their login coordinated so that they could still get in and access the recordings after the fact because of how much they cared about what was being conveyed and what was happening in the conference. So that was encouraging to see people. The conference has a reputation that it is living up to, that people care about making sure that they're getting the valuable information from it.
And for me, I'll agree with Shelby. Just that student panel is really a strong experience for me, just to hear their perspectives and how their challenges and maybe even things that work well for them as well. But just to hear all that and to hear to read the comments from the participants, like Shelby said, just to hear what they're asking and what they're learning from those students. I think it's just a strong experience. Can't recommend that student panel enough to attend that if you attend this year.
And I want to add in, so one of the big changes that we made last year, we did have to start charging because if anyone in higher ed knows, everything has gone up in price and it takes almost 10 Zoom licenses and 2 Zoom webinars to make this happen in the format that we've come to try to put out, which was built out of feedback, which is something we take very seriously. And that's kind of the two interactions I think that stick out to me are going through the feedback at the end of every conference and seeing not only the good, but also the concerns. And sometimes there's things that, you do your best to think around, are we considering everybody's needs? Are we getting all of this? Are we planning the best conference? And, sometimes you get presenters that had an off day. And so, but the fact that our attendees take the time to take those surveys and be honest about them really helps us. And we think about that. The planning committee, the program committee looks at that feedback and says, okay, man, we kind of missed the mark on some of these. That really wasn't a topic people wanted to hear about. And that helps us, I think. And then seeing when we moved to hosting it in Canvas last year, it gave us the ability to have discussion boards within like each breakout session area. And so people were coming in and putting in resources that related to that breakout session and interacting with each other in the discussion boards well before some sessions even. And that was really cool to see. That got all of us really excited. So I'm going to go off of the questions that I was going to ask because we have 2 very nice questions in the chat or in the Q&A. So I'm going to start with when and where in the process is the year's theme decided and how is it decided? I don't know that we have a theme.
That's what I was wondering.
I'm just sitting here thinking about that. We've never really like set out distinct themes for the conference.
I think it's much more organic. It comes about in virtue of the proposal submissions that we get, from which we try to pick the ones that we think fit best for our audience and those that we, just from our own awareness of things that are going on in the world of accessibility, are aware of as being important, or things that there may be interest in, or something that has the right fit with our audience.
Well, I think as far as the keynotes, sometimes it's based on like timely topics, like you were saying, Rachel, at that time, like maybe Title II, something like that would be something that we would look at. Like, so we're also considering all those timely topics, and there's more than one usually.
And I think too, we look at the proposals and okay, did we have this last year? Or okay, we had one similar to this, like a basic session on this last year, but this is going deeper than what last year's did. So a lot of it is looking back at what have we had in the past, and do we need that again, or do we need a deeper dive into that again? So we try not to do the same old, as Rachel said earlier. It's not the same conference all the time.
I will say, and a lot of times people, think that the keynote kind of sets the theme. And one of the challenges of being a very affordable conference that basically makes enough to pay the sign language interpreters, the captioners, some towards the Zoom licenses, and maybe a little bit for door prizes, and that's pretty much all done through sponsorship and attendance fees. We don't have a budget for a keynote. We cannot go out and get Nina G or Haben Girma, or we have to network like our lives depend on it. And so sometimes it's like, I saw this person present on like a podcast and they look pretty amazing. Let's reach out to them on LinkedIn and see if they'll be our keynote. And then a lot of times we want to play to what their strength is, and give them some feedback. So I hope that fully answers the question about theme, and that we really don't have one until we get submissions and keep
the overall is accessible.
Yeah. Okay, so then the second question that I have here for you all, are there things that attendees can do to make your lives easier? And are there things that attendees do that unintentionally make your lives harder?
I'll take this one. Just like students, if you can, please read things we have on the website, the instructions in our emails, things like that. Sometimes people don't always read things and they miss things that we put in there that have the answer to your question, or have how to do something, how to get registered, or how to access things. But we know everybody's human, but just take some time to read and read the instructions and information we have on our websites and our registration materials and things like that. I think that would be probably the easiest thing you could do to help us. But also sometimes when people don't read, makes things a little hard, because again, we're happy to help out, but we will probably point you, hey, by the way, this was on the website. Here you can go. Here you go. Here are the information. So that's what I would say.
In keeping with the students are human and people are students, or people are human, all those sorts of things, I feel like something else that comes to mind is that sometimes there's challenges that come about in virtue of procrastination, which we all struggle with. So if there's last minute issues, those can be a little bit more challenging to deal with, but we can roll with the punches as needed.
I think also filling out those surveys after the sessions, give us the feedback, because that really helps us the next year around. If there was a speaker that was just super fantastic, we want to make sure if they propose again the next year, we use them again. Or if there was a speaker who wasn't so awesome, fantastic, maybe we want to think twice about using them again, if they come back with a proposal. So if there's a topic that was just, wow, maybe we need to continue with that topic the next year as well, that deeper dive. So giving us that feedback on those surveys is very helpful to us.
Also, I might say, I'm sorry, Shelby. I just want to say also, we have the sponsor lightning round sessions, just interacting with our sponsors, giving our sponsors love. Attending those sessions helps us out a lot, because they're the ones that help pay for the things like our sign language interpreters and our captioning and all those things. So just wanted to add that real quick.
Yeah, I'll keep mine real short, but volunteer. We're always looking for volunteers.
You stole mine, Shelby. No, I agree with Shelby. And we'll be actually announcing. We'll be sending out a volunteer interest poll, and that will get put up on the website next week. And we have all different ways, co-moderators, moderators, and that really does help the more people that we have, the less people have to jump from back to back to back sessions. And it makes it easier to get in and feel calm and get your presenters in and check the tech and all of that. But I think one of the things that attendees can do is to ask great questions. Like that makes the presenters feel, oh, they're listening to me. But it also drives that conversation and that engagement so you feel like you're really a part of something. Instead of being in a webinar where you're just being talked at. And that's one of the reasons why we keep our chat open for people to chat. And that's also why we have very strict co-mods and moderators so that we can also maintain our chat and keep it respectful. So kind of that's the two things. Make our lives easier and don't intentionally make them harder by being respectful and chatty in chat and asking good questions of the presenters. So let's do one more question, maybe or two. And if you have other questions, please put them in the Q&A. So panelists, how has the broader accessibility landscape shifted during your time on the committee, and how has the camp adapted to those changes? We're getting into the hard questions now.
It's changed a little bit in 9 years. Different mandates have dropped. The big one with Title II later this year's the next big one. But as we see things changing, the proposals that we get for presentations are also changing. And so we're looking at those, how can we come up with a great balance that's meeting the current trends, but still, keeping the basics in mind too, and not making it too complex for people. So the common person come in and get a good foundation for what they're needing to learn to help their own institutions or businesses.
And I think that's kind of where I've seen the landscape of accessibility changing. It's not just education anymore. Businesses are taking notice of the employment arena.
Finally.
Yes. And that's, I think, very important. And we've seen that change in our attendees and in our proposals that come in for the conference. Like I said, back when we started, basically everybody there was either a faculty or staff at a higher education institution. Then we saw a little bit of K-12 slide in. And the next thing we know, we had business and industry. I remember the year that I had done a presentation for a company that does websites for municipalities. And one of the people that brought me in for that presentation was at our conference and came over and said, yeah, we decided we ought to figure out what everybody else is doing too. So, it has spread way beyond education, where it seemed to be kind of the key point, 10 years ago. And now lots of people and we have grown. Our committee reflects that, our proposals reflect that, and our attendees reflect that.
Well, I'll add, I think AI, artificial intelligence, and how that affects either helps or hinders accessibility. That's something that I think has recently become part of the accessibility landscape everywhere, really, but also accessibility and just how people can use it to help, but how it can be used to hinder too, right? So I think that's something that's changed recently too, just like everywhere else.
And I think I would say the big shift where virtual became more normal and more nuanced and like really nuts and bolts of like the technology of the conference. The shift that I have seen in like Zoom's accessibility, for instance, has made a huge difference because we actually have sign language interpreters. And now you can pop them out and put them in a completely separate window so that they're not blocking your view of the presenters or the materials on screen. And the attention to some of these pieces that wasn't there, let's say in 2020 when all the world went to Zoom. But I think that's really changed our considerations too. Like, oh, wow, we have the power to do this and do this well. Well, now let's make sure we raise enough money so that we can have an interpreter in every session. So, okay, we're at 12:41. We're going to take it out with this question here. So as you look forward to ASC 2026 on June 12th, what themes, ideas, or improvements are you most excited about? Or for those of you on the program committee sessions. I'll kick this off. Oh wait, no, Robert, go ahead.
It's been mentioned several times, but I'm always excited about the student panel. I can't say that it's an improvement or a change or anything different from previous years, except, we always try to have different students. I think only once have we had a student repeat, and that was because the first time they were on, they were just starting their college career, and the second time they were on, they had been through 2 years of college and had a slightly different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I think that is always one of the key things I look forward to. And I'm not just saying that because I've been the fortunate one to get to facilitate that over the years, and I've enjoyed that piece, but I do think it's very important to our participants.
I think I'm looking most forward to just that partnership that we're going to have with WSU now, and that synergy that we're going to have, and the ability to be able to pull in more perspectives and volunteers and attendees that will just help grow that community that Shelby was talking about earlier. So that's what I think I'm most excited about, is that collaboration with WSU now.
Speaking from the program committee, I'm excited about a lot of the presenters that we have this year, many names of which you will know when the schedule comes out and you'll see. And also, I think we have a really nice blend of sort of more unique aspects of accessibility that you might not encounter every day that are still applicable in a wide variety of contexts, and also sessions that are appropriate for those who are just getting started, getting more interested in introductory things. And also things that take a deeper dive into some of the more technical aspects, but also the accessibility is not just about document remediation, like we talked about, like it's complex organizational change management as well. So we've got a nice menu of different sessions that address all of those different aspects of things that I'm excited to see about, as well as, like we talked about, timely things having to do with AI and neurodivergence and lots of other Title II things, many other things that I think are very relevant.
Rachel, you took almost everything I was going to say from me. We went through the programs. There's topics that we've never had before that were on the proposals this year. That's what I'm most excited for, is, to see some of those, once they can be announced, see some of those new ideas come out. Like Rachel was saying, it's not just document remediation anymore. It is such a wider, broader thing to think about. So that's what I'm excited to see this year and moving forward too, is, how can we bring in some other aspects of what accessibility can be in, industry, government, education? How can we break down those barriers for others?
And I'll kind of take us out then. I am excited for a year where we have started earlier. We have things that are going to be in place earlier. Not only do we have a great program day of, we've got a solid lineup of completely free pre-conference sessions that'll be on the YouTube channel and on the website. And then we also have more ASC Lives planned, because we had so many great submissions that it was like, we can't put them all into one day. And some of them were like, this feels more like a conversation. And so if you like today, we got a whole lot more coming for you over the next year. But last year, sorry, pardon me, I have a frog in my throat. Last year, we switched, like I said, to hosting in a different way and to building it out in Canvas. And it was very stressful. And we pride ourselves on trying to be as communicative as possible and to support our attendees in the registration processes. And it was a big change, and we had to do a lot of work And this year, we at least know some of the challenges. So we're going to be able to communicate better and get people where they need to be with their registrations earlier, build out the camp earlier so people can get in there and look at everything and start having discussions. And I think that's what I'm really excited about, is just having our feet on the ground a little bit earlier than before so we can make it the best conference possible. And we will be opening registration in March sometime. We're waiting on some confirmations from some sponsors. But once we do, I can tell you that our keynote is Dr. Amy Lomolini. She's the Director of Accessibility at Anthology, which is the parent company for Blackboard and for Ally. And she's going to be presenting on rewriting the rules, what accessibility can teach organizations. And then we also have Gian Wild from Accessibility Oz. She's one of our friends over in Australia, and she usually brings a fun contingent of Australian friends. So you might meet an Aussie. And she's going to be talking about reading VPATs and ACRs. And then we have our own Robert Beach, who's going to be talking about Title II. And then, like I said, so many other presenters. Our early bird registration, which once it opens, will run through April, maybe into May. We're in talks about that, but that's going to be $15. So really, really reasonable. There is a 10% group discount if you register a large group of people all at once. And then regular registration when it starts is 25. So not too bad, especially if you don't get to go to in-person conferences. A lot of even virtual conferences are still $100, $200, sometimes even for one webinar. So follow us on socials or join our mailing list if you're not already. We are on Blue Sky. We are on Facebook and LinkedIn. We have a ASC group on Facebook that is really dynamic. And then I just want to thank all the panelists. Thank you for being here. Oh, we have one more question. So speaking of the schedule, when approximately will it be released? That's a fabulous question. We are waiting on presenters to confirm. And as soon as they confirm, then we will build out the very basic schedule on the website. It takes a little bit longer to build out all of the pieces and parts in Canvas with like all the bios and the details, but we'll have like the speaker and the session name and when it is. That'll be on the program just as soon as we get full confirmation from all of the presenters. I'm hoping by after spring break, if not before.
But if you follow us on our socials, the ones we have confirmed, we will be posting presenters on there. So not all of them yet, but as we get them confirmed, we will be. So follow our socials, and at least you'll learn more about the presenters and some of their topics there too, before we get the whole schedule out.
Yes. Brooke had a question in the chat. And I'm just to reiterate, we are always virtual. We have not had an in-person component since COVID. It just makes it easier, and we can be more accessible than trying to do both. But something that people have done is if they have a group of people, for instance, they might have a watch party in one of their conference rooms and make a thing of it and order in some food. So that's one way that people interact with it to make it more like an event sometimes. And I think that's all of the information I wanted to give you. Panelists, again, not only for being here, but for making ASC happen every year. There's no way that this conference would happen without people in this virtual room. And to you all who joined us today on a Friday. It is a Friday, right? Right, it's a Friday. On a Friday afternoon, thank you for being here. We're so glad you stopped by. Again, check out our mailing list and our socials to keep up with it. Even if you just check back on the website every week, that'll keep you in the know. And I hope everyone has a warm, wonderful, and safe weekend. And we'll see you again next month for some more ASC Live, but I don't know what yet because we're waiting on confirmation.
Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Looking forward to seeing you there. Bye, Josephine. Bye, panelists. Thank you. Bye, Tisha.